Moving ahead, may I invite Professor P.K. Mukhopadhyay, sir, ex-head, Department of Philosophy, Jadavpur University, for presidential address.
Sadashiva Samarambhan Shankaracharya Madhyamam Sri Gopinatha Padantang Bande Guru Paramparam Vishuddha Ganodeha Trivedi Dibbachakshushe Sreya Prapti Nimittaya Namasya Mardhodharine Asang Vihaya Purhitta Parasya Nindang Pape Rutincha Shunivarja Manasya Madhu Adaya Hit Madhya Gatanga Pareshang Varanasi Purapating Bhaja Vishwanatham. I am overwhelmed to be invited by this law faculty, and I am aware of the paucity of time. I will speak only on two topics. One is my right to be here and speak to you. This is the first. And the second is a few thoughts that was generated in me in connection with the recent replacement of the long-lasting criminal law. The first, I will be speaking about my right to come here and to speak to you. The organizers' right to invite me is justified in terms of their magnanimity, their kindness, and their open-heartedness. So their act is very transparent why they should invite me. But what right do I have to come and address you? At least in the presence of such stalwarts in the field of Nyaya, the black-coated experts, I am all white and amateur. Does amateur has a right to speak? I will say that. Now, so far as law is concerned, in a broad sense of the term, law permeates every aspect of every man's life, at least adult life, all over the world. So, as Anup said rightly, there are so many stakeholders in the matter of law, whether it's law education, law change, debates on law. There are so many stakeholders. And I am a stakeholder in the matter of law in two senses. In one sense, I am just an ordinary citizen and an educated citizen of India, of my country, so I am a stakeholder in that capacity. But I am also a stakeholder as an informed amateur in the field of law. What is informed amateur, I will explain, but before that, just as a citizen, normal citizen, and also an educated citizen, responsible citizen, I have a great stake. I do believe, because the time is short, I will be very brief, I believe that law education or education in law, some sort of law education, should be made available to the students of higher classes in the school, at the school level. And it is a great disadvantage to our population that these students or even ordinary citizens do not have the minimum requisite education in law, knowledge of law. we speak of sex education in higher classes of a school, but we never speak about and demand or feel the need for the law education on the one, and the second, the medical education. This should be made available to higher class students in the schools. Sex education can be got through other channels also, but this sort of education is absolutely necessary because of our ignorance of law. Ordinary citizens, even otherwise educated, they are harassed by vested interests, including so-called the savers of legal citizens, I mean the police forces. They misuse the law. They are supposed to keep the law, but they misuse the law and take advantage of our ignorance of law and harass people. So that way, it is very much necessary there should be minimal, useful law education available to every student or every man from the law education level. And for this, I think my legal colleagues in the Faculty of Law should seriously think about it. At least two measures they should take, I think. One is through extension lectures, and it's available nowadays. Minimum legal education should reach every citizen of India, everyone. And also through suitable books for legal education should be made available, which should be free from very difficult, almost unacceptable, what should I say, almost uncouth sometimes legal jargons. Free from jargons, such textbooks should be made available, and through extension lectures or many other possibilities are there, the legal education should be made available. So this is my, as a stakeholder of ordinary citizens. But I am also an amateur stakeholder. I have it is a very technical concept, but I have no time to explain it. But in the simple words, a stakeholder with regard to law is a person who is expert in his own field and take living interest in the law. So, with regard to every particular well-defined system of education, well-defined knowledge system, whether it is science, or it is philosophy, or it is literature, there are the practitioners, teachers of that particular discipline of knowledge. Say, for example, the physics. So there are experts of physics, but there should be, why should be, I will explain, around the system of knowledge of physics or mathematics or whatever it is, well-defined, well-developed system of knowledge, there should be some people who are experts in a different field but take living interest in this field. This is absolutely necessary because the more a subject gets in the hands of the experts only, the system of knowledge continues to grow, but it grows only in technicalities and in intensity, but it loses its extensity and reach to wider people. This is the first point. The second point is when a particular discipline of knowledge is narrowed down to some experts who have a great interest in it and need for it, they form a community, and the community grows, narrower and narrower. Experts are always very few. And because of their limited members, they develop a sort of existential, a compulsion that they should support each other. But no system of knowledge can grow unless there is available good criticisms, suggestions, and support. And this can be provided by those other disciplines of knowledge who are experts and can take interest in it. Around 1959, C.P. Snow, a scientist, he gave two lectures, which was later on published also as Two Cultures. He argued there that because of that over-specialization and early specialization in any field of knowledge, particularly science, has done great harm to science, great harm to that particular knowledge system. And I consider myself an informed amateur because I am from the field of philosophy. But I take living interest in law, and I am not the only person, there are so many people. We don't know perhaps, but there has not been any single great philosopher who has not written on law. Whether it's Kant, or it's Hegel, or it's Plato, or it's Aristotle. But this patent fact is lost sight of by us, but not by all. I remember at least one book by a practicing law educationist, Chhatrapati Singh of Delhi, who published a book in 1985, From Anarchy to Utopia. That is the name perhaps. It's very, unfortunately he died very early. He presented a copy of the book to me. I know that person. And he took his inspiration from a philosopher, and the philosopher was Immanuel Kant. So this is not that I have no right to come here. On my own side, from my own side, my right is I am an informed amateur, I am from the field of philosophy, I have a stake in education, law education, and also I have a living interest in it. This is my justification why I am here. Otherwise you would have said, yes, out of magnanimity, the organizers have invited me, what right I had to come here. In a conference of law, I must establish my credibility and my right to come here. I think I have justified it. The second point that has come to my mind is this. You would all know about the in recent time, our Indian Parliament has repealed the earlier criminal law system of criminal law and revised it and introduced our own criminal law. It is supposed to be Indian criminal law. This created in me or provoked me to think about only some things. What does it mean to be an Indian? It is the same law, same idea of law. There is no great thinking. It is an occasion for us to think great and think very seriously about what should we understand by Indian law. The point is this: law permeates, as I told you, every sphere of life of every individual. But mind it, law is for only the human beings. The world is not of men only. but law is only for men. The second thing is this, that law of a land or a people is intimately connected with the conception of man and the conception of society of that people. The British law is British law not because we are the colonial people and they were a ruler, but the British law was framed with the British conception of what a man is and British conception of society is. Are you aware that what is our conception, I mean India's conception of man and India's conception of society? There is a glaring difference between them. According to the other people's conception, law is the creation of social people. A law is given to us, to the people, by the men and the society. But what is the idea of man, of the, say for example, European people? Man is a rational animal. This is the definition. And we read it, repeat it and learn it. That is definitely not the conception of man in India. What is Manushya? Man is dharmika. That is the idea. Conception of man in India is man is dharmika. It has been said, aharo nidra bhaya gointunancha samanna metani pushuvik naranam pushunang something dharmohi tosya adhiko vishesho dharmeno hina pushu vishubana. The rational animal, this conception introduces rationality to distinguish man from animals. We distinguish man not by rationality but by dharmika. Man is dharmika and also in the broad sense of the term legal entity, legal individual, because who does not have dharma is not a man at all. And those who are not men, law is not for them. Our term for law is vidhi, and vidhi is formulated only for man. But what is their speciality in man for which dharma, there is vidhi is only for man? There is no vidhi for the pushus. The vidhi is only for man. The reason is this: man is that creature who has discriminatory awareness of right and wrong. What is right and wrong, this discrimination man is capable of doing. Every man, independent of legal knowledge even. So it is said, idang papam idang punnam itte tasmin padoddaye asamutra manushyanam salpam shastra prayojanam. Even independent of Shastra, everyone knows what is right and what is wrong. The most of the wrong that has been done by men in the world is not out of ignorance of the right, but with full knowledge of right, they do it. From this it comes to the point that the conception of man, man is not essentially bad. Man is not essentially God. Man is good, but weak. And the weakness of man is to be compensated. And which compensates this weakness? The law, or vidhi. Our conception of vidhi, which seems to be the synonym of law, has this power in it, that it compensates for a man's weakness. What is it? Now, our law derives its authority from something external. Maybe it's a lawmaker, the parliament in a democratic system, or the king, but that is not our conception. Our law is called vidhi, is a pravartaka vakya. Mind the word, the pravartaka. It has the ability to make man act. It is not an advice that you should do this, but it itself has the power to make you act. That is, it activates you. That is why it is called pravartaka vakya. So this is our conception of vidhi. And I think that if we really want to have some sort of Indian knowledge, we should know three things. First, there is a difference. In European perspective and in the perspective of many modern countries and civilizations, society makes law. Our conception is just opposite. The law makes society. That is, our samaj is dharma samaj, and for them dharma is samajik. The samaj gives the dharma. Religion and law is a product created by man. Our conception is different, and this was known very well by ordinary people during the independence movement. This was a bone of contention and a great debate between the militant nationalist and pacifist nationalist. On the one hand, the author of Vande Mataram, Bankim Chandra Chattopadhyay, Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, they are all for this idea that the samaj is based on dharma. Samaj does not give dharma, samaj itself is based on dharma, protected and created by dharma. The militant ones, whether Aurobindo or to some extent Subhash Chandra Bosu, they were opposing it. So this was the great debate. This debate we have forgotten, but this was there very much. So these two conceptions of vidhi and or samaj are so distinct, and ultimately when you speak of man is dharmiko, its translation that man is rational in our sense of the term, but the difference is this, that this rationality is practical rationality, rationality of action. This rationality of action is inbuilt in man in our conception of law, conception of man. So this conception of man, this conception of law, and this conception of vidhi, particularly as pravartaka, having its own ability to make man act. It is not borrowed from other sources, external sources. These are the distinctive features of Indian conception of law, and I hope that these thoughts should be given, or you should please the law faculty, my colleagues in the law faculty should give some thoughts to these things. Thank you.